everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is Rob here at Smirking Gun Reviews, and tonight we're back talking about The Outsider, Episode 3 from HBO. It just got over with, and wow. So, I just want to tell y'all, I appreciate everybody that watched the last one. The last about 2 episodes anyway. I wanted to touch on just briefly the great setup that those 2 premiere episodes gave us. All this great setup. I'm glad that they aired both episodes back to back. Sometimes it doesn't quite make sense that they do that, but in this case, I think it was really important that we see Jason Bateman's characters like beginning and end, and then filling in all the gaps of the questions that happen after the fact. It was a really bold decision to do it like that. Now, it's based on a story, right? So, I mean, they kind of had to do it like that, I guess. I mean, as far as, like, it was going to happen. But a lot of times in story structure for TV and adaptations, sometimes they like to drag that out. But instead, they aired those 2 episodes back to back, and I think it was a really good decision because then we're not always waiting to see, like, it doesn't leave people waiting to find out what's going to happen to Jason Bateman's character. It just leaves more questions. It leaves you more to go, oh my God, what happens next week? Now, while everything was really creepy and riveting and intense last 2 episodes, this one was genuinely scary and continued the unsettling feeling of the past 2 episodes. This one, though, was legit creepy and scary at times. This episode's called Dark Uncle, and it's directed by Andrew Bernstein, who also directed a few episodes of Ozark along with Jason Bateman. So it's like they kind of have a rapport, probably. He's done episodes of Chance. He's done episodes of other shows that are actually really good stuff that I had to look this guy up just to make sure, like, I had a feeling that he was connected to Bateman's Ozark. For some reason, there's a way that this show is shot and filmed that really felt like Ozark. So just really, that was all I really wanted to talk about was how well I thought that they set up the last 2 episodes going into this. So in this, we don't have to wait. Now, this is a 10-episode season or series. This is still going to be a slow burn, but they don't waste time finding that barn, thankfully, where they find the clothes. They find, oh no. Sorry, I left my heater on. And it was going to be blasting behind us the whole time. I actually thought about setting up this thing with technical difficulties to put up, but we're not going to do that tonight. So they find the clothes in the barn. They find all that goop, which is really, really creepy. They find the belt buckle, which I really like what happens with this a little bit later. When we see Ralph, played by Ben Mendelsohn, visiting the gravesite of his son, this is another really great way of saying something without having any dialogue, which is just, except for him saying to his son's grave, I wish, I could tell you about what's been going on. But then when he leaves the grave and he has to pass the graves of the family of Frankie, his whole family now gone, and one of the graves being empty, getting ready to be filled with the last family member. It's just hitting him like really hard. And it's such a great way to just express Ralph's feelings about a situation without having to go into like a bunch of dialogue. I also see the character of Jack, who's played by, again, I forget this, Mark Menchaca. He is a real piece of shit. I at first thought that maybe in the second episode where they introduce him as like a hunter who's kind of just put off, that maybe he was just a misunderstood kind of cop, that we would kind of like him later because, he does come to the hospital. He looks like, he does have a good rapport with the other officers. But in this, he just kind of jumps right into, he's a drunk and a scumbag, it seems to me. And he's a liability cop. And he's sent to go check out the barn after the CSI guys have already been through there. But before he goes there, he goes to the strip club and gets drunk. Then goes there. And while he's there, drunk as a skunk, someone's in that barn. Someone or something. We also get this really kind of foreshadowy moment where they pan out to a graveyard near the barn. So I feel like that's going to be important. Why would they pan out to that if it wouldn't be? So I'm thinking something is buried there, or whoever's graves those are is going to be important to the story later on. Also, when he senses that it's behind him, right? You don't see anything there, though. You see a shadow. That's it. But then he has that bite mark. And you see him they pan out a little bit, right? And there's nothing behind him. So I'm thinking maybe this thing can, like, with its tongue, like, reach out and hit you with its bite. Or it bit him and it booked. But he's in intense pain from here on out for the rest of the episode. And the first thing I started thinking was, alien. This is an alien. This has got to be like an alien, some sort of thing, kind of like the It monster from It. Some sort of thing that came from somewhere else in space and is now, living here, just hiding amongst us as, an outsider. I don't think that's my newest theory, because as they talk about later on in the episode about the doppelganger theory, I wondered if they'd get around to talking about doppelgangers, and they certainly do here. Then they find the prints on the buckle, okay, that are all Terry Maitland's, but some of them are, quote unquote, ancient, like they're from an 80 or 90-year-old man. And so Ralph and the rest of the people that are involved in this are having a very, very hard time reconciling this, because two things, in a cop's brain, which this is one of the reasons, again, why Richard Price is perfect to adapt this, because he does a lot of cop stuff, and he does a lot of realistic cop stuff in dialogue. Having to write these characters who can't reconcile with the unexplainable. I mean, Ralph says so much himself. It's from the trailer, too, that he has no tolerance for the unexplainable. So they know that something is using his prints. Somehow there's somebody out there with his prints, but it's a very X-Files-y moment. They remind me of cops that would end up calling Mulder and Scully and, like, what can you guys do to tell us? What does this? What's out there, what scientifically could cause this? Another big part of this episode is Maitland's wife having to deal with the fact that even though her husband was never convicted of a crime before he was murdered, her kids are being bullied at school and are now being they're being asked to leave. It's not so much an expulsion, but I love how she puts it, let's just call it a sabbatical. That the kids that are being harassed and bullied are the ones that have to leave. It's pretty fucked up. So they figure out that they need somebody, Ralph and the CSI guy go to Maitland's lawyers and his detective, to his investigator, to put their heads together to try to figure out what this is. Now, they're on the defensive because, they're the cops who they believe, and Ralph is beginning to suspect they wrongfully arrested they arrested Maitland and it was wrong. But when you have all that evidence, I mean, they were still doing their jobs. They were doing the right thing with the evidence that they had in front of them. But now, after the fact, and this tragedy has been committed, and there are people dead all over the place. The whole family's dead on one side. The supposed killer's dead. And, there's no answers. There's still no answers. And so they come to the lawyers to try to, let's figure out justice for everyone. We can't let this just sit here and be some unsolved crime that just sits here forever. Because I like that Ralph's the kind of character that they've written to. I mean, it's a little cliche to have the cop character who's like, I'm not going to let this cold case stand kind of thing. But it's the writing and the performances that elevate an otherwise kind of tropey, cliche kind of thing that we've seen in other shows. Um, but they have this character in mind to help them, who is Holly Gibney, who is played by Cynthia Erivo, and I liked her a lot in Bad Times at the El Royale. I'm pointing over to my framed poster of it because I really dig that movie, and I had never heard of her before that movie. All I knew is that she was had been in musicals or something like that. I don't know. I don't watch musicals, but I found her really great in that, and she is fantastic in this. She's basically described as unique. I kind of that she's good at finding things out. So I started thinking photographic memory because she knows a lot that she can't explain. But what she tells them is basically nobody knows why she knows what she knows. And I don't even think it feels like really psychic because she says things like, I can, tell the height of a building from a speeding car. Things like that. So it's not just some psychic knowledge, it's just knowing things. And that fascinates me too because I like they're just things in our brains sometimes, right? There's things that I know that I don't know why I know them. Or like if it's something that I heard or read or something from really, really far off, somehow it just pops out of my head at the weirdest times. And I think that maybe she's just maybe she's just able to use a lot more of her brain. Like her memory side of her brain is so great that she's able to recall that even the most minute details of things she's been told. Or I don't know. It's a really interesting part of this show. But we also find out that there's another child killer in prison who's been convicted of what appears to be a very heinous child killing. Because the picture that they showed and what they want to do to him, like, I know child killers don't do well in prison either, but I immediately understood where this was headed. That we're going to find out that there was some other crime committed, and this guy was put in jail, probably had a mountain of evidence against him, and this guy probably didn't do it. Also, the doppelganger theory gets brought up here, and that scene is our main introduction to what Cynthia Erivo's character is like, and I really thought that this was great. Also, and I'm going to be saying also a lot, huh? The guy with the shank. Holy cow, talk about commitment to getting a shank into a prison cell by digging it into your body and shoving it into your body and having to dig it out. Basically putting it in your leg, sealing it up with probably having to sew it up or something, and then cut it out and then pull it out. Like, you really want to kill somebody then. It's like, holy shit. We find out that little Jessa Maitland has been receiving a message from this person that she's been seeing. Now, I figured the whole time that it's clearly the guy or whatever is doing this. How it gets into her room at night, why it doesn't kill her, why isn't it just on some sort of it seems almost like a serial killer. But I honestly don't understand why it's visiting the child. Because it's been visiting her since the crime was committed, right? Or since her dad died, maybe? Well, Jessa's mom reluctantly has Ralph come in because she's supposed to give this message to him from this being. And the message is to stop, or something very bad is going to happen, which was a little underwhelming as far as messages go, but not unexpected. But that this thing has visited her 4 times. The first time it looked like her dad. The skin was off. The second time it looked like her dad, but messy, like something was wrong with the face, like it had been tried to be erased. And by the 4th time, it looked like somebody else. And it looked inky. Now, that clearly, to me, that says that it's already found somebody else. And if it was recently, then it probably looks like Jack. I don't know if we've seen his arms, if he's got tattoos, but I'm willing to bet dollars to donuts that Jack's got tattoos. That's just my working theory right now. I don't know. I could be way off. Also, there I go with the alsos again. When Holly goes to the mall, the little strip mall, and sees the mall safe security cameras, and just boom, just like that, the mall safe security guy is there. The guy in charge, right? Because somebody else called off and got sick. He's there today, of all things. Now, this could just be a simple plot convenience that, they just were like, well, how do we, we need to get some information out there to this character. But to me, that's a very convenient, like that guy being there is very convenient. Also because the guy is played by Derek Cecil. Derek Cecil's a very great character actor. You've seen him in shows like House of Cards, and he's very good at being creepy and bad. Like bad. I mean, he's really good at it. Now, maybe this is just a red herring that they're throwing at us, or for those of us who recognize certain character actors to go, oh, I bet you that guy's in on it, just to kind of throw us off the scent, which would be a kind of cool way to, like, trip us up for the real mystery that's in front of us. Now, like I said, I haven't read the book, and I'm really wishing I had, but I'm really glad I didn't at the same time. That way I don't have to be sitting here trying to tell you guys, like, dance around the fact that I know what happened. But I still say, again, that's something to look out for, is this guy popping up, because they exchanged cards. So there's no reason that we won't get a call back from this. But then Holly does some more research and finds out that there were 2 little girls killed. They were found brutally murdered, and there was a hospital worker that was convicted of their deaths, and it was the guy from the prison. And I was right, but I mean, they were kind of telegraphing that a little bit. But before anybody can get to him, his cell is unlocked, and the biggest kind of like question that people will have is that this guy goes in there to kill him. He's got the piece of broken glass to protect himself. You think it's to defend himself, but instead he says, I'm not going to let you do this to me. And the guy's like, the hell you aren't. And instead of defending himself, he cuts his own throat. So, does that mean that he thought the person coming to kill him was the real killer? Did he think that? And he wasn't going to give the killer the satisfaction, and maybe he thought that because the killer, maybe he knows that the killer can look like anybody, that it was just pretending to be this guy so he could get at him, and he wasn't going to give him the satisfaction. There's a lot of questions now surrounding this part of it, because they're going to find him. They're going to start going, well, did this guy really do it? Start doing backtrack on him. All the convenient evidence is going to be there. They're probably going to find out that he also had alibis that put him in other places as well. But the very, very, very last thing is Jack. Jack, who's in immense pain, and okay, he should know to have checked this out, because throughout the episode, he's looking at looking at his neck and all this, and he doesn't go to the fucking hospital. But by the end of the episode, he's saying, I'll do whatever you need me to do, whatever you need me to do, whatever you need me to do. So, whether or not this is something is talking to him in his brain through this bite, I don't know. Maybe he just thinks that whoever did this to him, if he just says that, maybe he will get instructions to make this pain stop. And just really quickly, I forgot to mention that they had the clothes and the goop tested, and they can't figure out what it is. So right then and there. So this is starting to look like, what if the X-Files and The Wire had a baby? And here we go. So another fantastic episode of this show. I can't wait to see what happens next. If you like this review, though, please hit the like button. If you're not already a subscriber, please become a subscriber. You can find me on Twitter at reviews_gun. If you feel so inclined, you can donate to my channel at ko-fi.com/smirkinggunreviews. Otherwise, we're going to be back with Avenue B's premiere episode later on tonight. And next week, we'll be back with episode 4 of The Outsider. Thanks again for watching. This is Rob saying have a great night, and we'll be back next week. Bye.